Reality Check with Craig Price.
Oh, right, sorry.
I'm an idiot.
4 minutes in and I'm already wrong.
I'm like a monkey. Hello, look at me! Craig, shut up.
Hey, I need you guys to do these things.
You're like a beautiful mind. I'm more like Forrest Gump. So it's another Reality Check with Craig Price. Got a great show for you today. We've got Lisa Giesler. Say that 6 times fast. Lisa Giesler is on the show, and she's going to talk about organization. And she is a home organizer, but she's also a business organizer as well. She will show you and talk to you about how to organize your home, how to organize your closets, how to organize your life. But also, she can help businesses organize their files, organize their systems that they've got, their processes in place, and organize everything to make it run smoother. And so she's going to be on the show. And if you were to ask my wife, I am not that organized, which is unusual because for years I was helping run a business, not my own. It was someone else's business, and I had to be so organized 24 hours a day at any given moment. Someone might call and ask for some weird stuff, and I had to know exactly where everything was, where the finances were, or the schedule, the organization. I had to know everything. That now that it's just me, and it's my business, but it's just me, it's so much easier. I don't have to be as organized. The pressure to be organized is not as great. I can still find the stuff that I need. I just don't have to be so anal and organized and have lists and have calendars and multiple calendars and, tickler files and all these things that tell me where stuff is going to be so I can find it because I don't have as much. It's just I don't need to worry about it as much. It's so much pressure off being your own boss. But if you were to ask my wife, I'm not organized, despite the fact that for years of my life, professional life, it was nothing but being supremely organized. So organization is one of these muscles that you have to keep flexing, or it will atrophy. It just will. And so I brought Lisa on because I wanted to talk to her about organizing things. I'd like to be a little more organized in my life. I'd like to be a little more busy, so I would need to be a little more organized. And I thought she would be a perfect person to maybe settle some issues that I have with my wife in general, because my wife is the kind of person, if you leave a cup out, we are automatically living in filth. In her mind, a single cup on the counter, empty, is now we are hoarders living in filth. There's mice and rats in her mind. We're just living in, like Sanford & Son, we're living in a junk pile. So I can leave a cup out and it won't bother me. For her, she will go crazy. So it's one of those situations where she gets real organized at home. She has to find everything. She likes to have everything looking nice. And hey, if you're going to have people come over your house, you want it to look nice. So she is real focused on making sure the house is organized, where I am not. If I know someone's coming, I will pick up and clean up, but on a day-to-day basis, not my top priority. But for her, definitely is top priority, and it can cause a lot of anxiety for both of us. So I'm hoping that Lisa will help clear up a couple issues between my wife and myself, as well as help you guys at home. And this is a great way to get couples counseling, without your wife being present or paying a dime. So clear off your desk, make sure everything's put away nice and clean, as I give you Lisa Giesler.
Looking at doing different banks and other business venues, so that's pretty cool because what they're wanting to do is just be more organized. A lot of people were resistant to the word organizing because they're thinking about
thinking about reorganizing.
Right.
Which reorganizing means firing.
No, actually, I think what they're thinking about is people don't want to necessarily, they're not quite ready to get their stuff touched. But then when you start looking at it
I prefer people don't touch my stuff. And it's not my stuff.
But if you talk to them and you help them with their time and their schedule, and that's what they're looking at. They're looking at, okay, I got all this stuff going on. How do I manage it? Talk to me. Tell me. And it's just kind of going step by step. And then after they feel comfortable with you, then you can touch this stuff.
I would hope that you at least maybe a movie, a little dinner, some wine maybe. I'm here with Lisa Giesler. Did I say that right, Giesler?
You said it well.
I'm trying to make sure I don't foul that up, which more geese things. But it's Lisa Giesler, a professional organizer. And I'm horribly disorganized. The fact that I have any organization in my life has to do with more with my wife. And when you were talking about touching stuff, I don't like it when people touch my stuff.
Me neither.
Because my organization level is different than my wife's. So whenever I put something I know is going to be there, if she moves it because it looks messy, now I don't know where anything is. So my system is destroyed to make sure her system is in place. So when you're dealing with a home, what's the most common problem when it comes to organization as far as on a regular basis? Where do people, is it just keeping their closets in shape, or is it storage? I find the garage to be kind of a mess.
Well, before I tell you what I think the most common thing is, what you just put, you just mentioned with you and your wife, which is really interesting to me, is there's innies and outies. I read an article about
like
that.
Belly buttons.
Yeah. It's like some people want to have everything tucked away neatly so you don't see it. Like, this is very gorgeous in here. Everything is hidden away.
That's my wife. And we're, just so you know, we're here at the Price Manor, which is very rare. We're actually recording at Price Manor. We're usually on the road. But
I am an outie.
You like to see everything. That's what I am.
I like to see it. But I know how to put it away real quickly. Because my sons, I like to sit at the kitchen table when I'm doing some office work or whatever, and I just like to have everything spread out. I want to look at it. I want to see it. If it's hidden away, I'm going to forget that I even have it.
So you're going to go with the J. Edgar Hoover way. They used to have the old rule that at the end of the day, everything had to be off the desk.
Exactly.
But you don't care what it looks like when it's on the desk.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So can you explain that to my wife in slow, small words, so there's no miscommunication, that a mess is okay as long as I can just kind of...
Exactly. Well, there's different levels what people are comfortable with.
Well, sure.
I find that homes that look very, very sterile, I think, does anybody live here? Yeah,
no, that's right, because then you wonder, are they a fugitive? If you can pick up and walk away, it's like a mafia. That's what they, it's like never get attachments, so you can just pick up and leave.
Well, I think about, you only have so much time in the day, and I'd like to have some fun. So if my house is perfectly sterile, and I used to be that way, I wasn't having a lot of fun in life. So you kind of have to balance things. But I would say, back to your original question, the biggest thing, people still have paperwork issues.
Oh, just putting where they put the bills and mail?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is crazy how people have a fear of that almost. They put these piles and they kind of procrastinate. And before you know it, do you know what a week's worth of mail looks like?
Yes, I do. And it's huge and messy. That's why I pay my bills like the day I get them. The first thing I do is I grab the bills, I look at them, I open them up, and then I just go online and set everything up and then leave them alone, because I don't like to not pay bills. Now, that's why I pay the bills, because my wife is the person who would put it aside, hide it.
But what about invitations to parties? Where do you put those?
You can kind of tell, though. That's when you wrote to the mail. Invitations stand out. They're square. Sometimes they smell funny. It's like getting bomb threats. It's like sometimes they've got little cut out pieces, but you can tell an invitation.
Exactly. Or if you get something unexpected in the mail, if you get something from the doctor's office and you look at that and you go, that wasn't right. What happened to the insurance paying for that? Well, then you got to put it in a special pile. A special place.
To-do pile. There's a regular pile?
Okay. Well, because what it is that you're going to put it in that pile, whether it's a bill, whether it's an invitation, or whether you got to call somebody. And then I'm going to write it on a calendar that's going to remind me to take care of it. Because sometimes, there's too many other things going on. So it's like, okay, I know I got to take care of this. This is, it's important. But if I wait until next week, it becomes urgent. And then if I wait for 2 or 3 weeks, well, then that's it. I missed it.
And then you're paying late fees, and you're doing stuff that I can't stand.
Exactly. Exactly.
So how would you suggest people, instead of piles, because it sounds like the pile problems, which sounds like a medical issue as well, but if you've got all these piles everywhere, what else? What's the best way to keep that organized?
Well, what I have for specifically me is I go through mail immediately right away. That's just something that that's just my little pet peeve that I want to take care of.
You sound like me. I check it on the way out and on the way back in the house.
Exactly.
And my wife can't stand it.
Exactly. But now I have this really nice bookcase that's in my kitchen. It's in my breakfast area, and I got baskets. And I have one basket that's the things that need to do. Then I have the basket that I got to file. And then you have the one that you're going to follow up on. So let's say you ordered, those guys knocked on the door to order magazines to subscriptions for you. And, you put in there because you want to make sure you get the subscriptions to the magazine. Little things like that. Or you call the doctor's office and you're waiting for an answer. So you got that follow-up pile. Or you got those really cool coupons that don't expire.
Oh, my wife gets the the DSW things. She keeps them.
Bed Bath and Beyond. If you hold on to them, you could really do good.
You can clean house, huh?
Exactly.
She does that with gift certificates too. She does that with like at Christmas time. We'll get a whole bunch of gift certificates.
Exactly.
And she'll keep them in a pile because they know they won't go bad.
Right.
But I mean, I think we've got a Cheesecake Factory one over on the counter there.
But you got to be careful. Some of them only have a 1-year limitation. And I actually had put one away, and I didn't think about it for a while. And then by the time I was ready to use it, they said it was expired. And I said, what happened to that money? There was money on this card. Where is it? Is it in the abyss somewhere?
It's in their pocket. They're making. You know where they make most of their money on those cards is that when you get a $50 card.
Right.
And you and your husband in this case, or in my case it'd be me and my wife, we go out to get something to eat, and it's only, say it's $35. We give them a tip, it's $45. That's still $5 left over.
Exactly.
You're not going to remember, or even if it's like $1.50 left on the card, you forget it, and they make that so you think about $1.50 times the thousands of people getting cards. That's $10,000-$15,000 easy just because
they're making money on that.
Yeah,
they are really making money on that.
That's a great scam. I'm going to start offering cards, gift cards for speaking engagements. I don't know if that'll work, but
not a bad idea. Not a bad idea.
So, where did you find out about all the organization stuff? Because I mean, is it just because you're super organized, or is it something that you worked hard at? How did you decide to take the organizational skills that you had amassed from wherever?
That's interesting. First of all, I always had a natural tendency. I just liked it. I mean, I was one of those people my friends I'd say, guess what I did today? I organized my cabinet, and they would say, you don't have a life. I'm like, well, but and it's like, okay, well, after a while.
I color coded all the spices.
I know. You know what? But I have friends who have everything in their pantries labeled in their refrigerators, and I'm like, okay, you've really stepped over the edge. Okay, I'm not that bad.
No, because you don't want to be labeling everything every week.
Exactly. But
don't they come in boxes that have labels on them? How do you know what you bought?
Exactly. Well, no. They would put like Tupperware, like this, whatever the different food products. Well, that's just too much time. It's in the refrigerator, and I've got, I used to say I have teenage boys. They're in their 20s now. Food doesn't last long. But anyway, food doesn't stay long in the house, period, to label it. It just goes. But anyway, I had this natural tendency, and everybody would call on me when they needed help getting organized. And so over the years, you go to somebody's house, and they have a good idea. And you kind of put that in your head. So all this stuff that I teach people now, I would love to take credit for all of it, but I can't. It's just, you just see people who have really great ideas, and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna keep that idea. That's a good one. And then somewhere along the line, living in New Orleans, and I told everybody, I said, I want to be an organizer. And they went, what? What does that mean?
You're gonna get votes? You're gonna go run around you're gonna get signatures on petitions? Different types of organizations.
I also told them I wanted to write a book too, and they just kind of looked at me going, what does that mean? So anyway, when I moved to Houston's been a really cool place to live.
Now, did you move to Houston just because, or were you like a lot of people who moved from New Orleans to Houston? You were forced here because of natural disasters.
Well, actually, we were forced here. It was a natural disaster, but it wasn't Katrina. We actually were forced here when all the oil companies left the city, and it was like, family, food. Okay, we have to go somewhere we can eat.
Oh, so you just went where opportunity took you. So this was before Katrina. How long have you been in Houston?
2 years before Katrina. I'm oilfield industry. As a matter of fact, next month makes 8 years that we're living in Houston.
Okay. I came here '95. I had no idea. I just want to go someplace that wasn't snowing, in New Orleans, I go into New Orleans, but there's just too much vomit in the streets. That's all. It's just like, just too much of that.
That's the French Quarter and part of the city.
But that's the only part that I'd like to go to.
I know, but there's so much more. The people are just so amazing. Like, it's when we first moved to Houston, because the people in New Orleans, they like to sit outside, they visit with their neighbors, If they tell you you're going to come over for coffee, they mean right now. And so we were sitting outside on our front lawn, and the neighbor said, what are y'all doing? We're sitting outside. Why?
It's 100 degrees outside.
Because we want to. Exactly.
You guys live in a swamp. New Orleans is 100 degrees. It's 89% relative humidity. It's mosquitoes, and you guys want to go outside?
We want to sit outside on the front porch.
No wonder everyone's drunk all the time out there. I love New Orleans. It's a fun place to go. I just couldn't imagine, sitting out there on purpose, sober.
Exactly. No, most of them might not have been.
I could do that here in Houston. So you decided that so many people got asking for your services.
Correct.
That this was about time that maybe you took the services and started getting money from it.
Somebody told me that there was NAPO, the National Association of Professional Organizers, and I'm like, really? People do this for a living? I was doing this for coffee,
Yeah. So they really helped you out, NAPO?
NAPO was amazing. It really was, because you get on this listserv and you get to watch organizers all over the world just talking and asking each other's questions and giving each other advice, and it just becomes this support system. And they have these classes that help you fine-tune different areas of organization. Like, for example, my next move I'm going to be doing is virtual organizing.
Okay. Explain that. Is that where you just call in and say, move that to the left?
Kind of, sort of.
And they're like, how does it look now? I don't know. I'm on the phone. I'm over move the webcam over so we can see. Is that kind of the situation?
Something like
you can
that.
Take snapshots?
Exactly. Well, people do that.
Well, my wife, she takes the pictures. There's a website online where you can take pictures of the room.
Exactly.
And then you upload them, and then you can change the wall color.
Exactly.
Because that wall she wants to, and this is great for radio. That wall she wants to, like an accent wall. She wants to make it like a dark brown, and then she's going to have some other weird color. Like every wall's, she's got a system in place. I know, that's the face I looked at when I heard about it. But then she showed me pictures on the website. And I go, that looks kind of neat.
I guess in the organizer mind, I'm a little bit more neutral in matter, you know.
More beige and grays. Yeah, that's like where everything else is.
Well, I do like splashes of red, because that's the fun part that comes out.
Yeah, well, that's basically, imagine if that's where you would put the splash of red. It's going to be splash of brown. So
right.
And I may be wrong. She may have changed her mind 6 or 8 times. She just waits for me to go out of town for long periods of time, so then all of a sudden I come back and that whole wall pictures was done.
You're a good husband.
Yeah, I just live here. I just live here. I'm lucky. I grew up in such conditions where it was just like, I had small, tiny apartments in New York, and I had New York City, and I had small, tiny apartments wherever I've been. The fact that there's more than one room here, and that my bed is not on the ground, I don't care. That's great, because when you're a single guy, who needs a headboard and who needs, the box spring off the ground? You can just put it on the ground.
But see, that's important. I grew up in a house that was 800 and something square feet. There was 6 of us, and Mom and Daddy used to invite other people to live with us who were less fortunate than us.
That's like 10 feet a person.
Well,
it's like being in prison.
Well, so you come to these points in your life where you're like, well, how much stuff do we really need? Now, don't get me wrong, we like things and pretty and bling and, nice little selection. Mm-hmm. But that's where people start getting overwhelmed.
That's exactly why this condo that we're in thankfully is paid for, but it's only about 890 square feet. You throw on the balcony, which is really big, and then you throw in the storage area we've got, which we're not going to show you because that's horrible. But we did that on purpose because we know that we've lived in bigger places. It gets out of control.
Exactly.
And we've seen friends that buy the big, huge McMansions.
Exactly.
And they've got a whole, like half of a floor they don't even use.
Exactly.
So as far as when you start thinking about organization, now you're starting about using the areas you have, or what necessarily if you have too much stuff.
Exactly.
So what do you recommend? Is that just a matter of just discipline?
Everybody's got their different personalities and preferences on what they want. And sometimes it's making peace with what's really important, what really matters, and what you really want and how you want your life to be. So when someone's gotten to the place where they're like, the clutter is surrounding them and they're just not functioning well.
Like a hoarder.
Well,
my grandmother was like a hoarder.
Yeah, well, but not always that, Just it becomes too much to take care of.
Just piles of magazines. Doesn't have to be 7,000 magazines, but 7 magazines.
Well, and it becomes too hard to take care of. And then you're like, okay, well, I've got all this stuff, and then you're not relaxing because you're just surrounded by things, and it just becomes uncomfortable, and you just you just can't function. For example, you're late for work because you can't get in your closet because you can't find anything in there because you just got too much stuff in there and it's not organized.
Or you can't find keys.
Yes.
Because that's my biggest problem is I have the Holy Trinity. I need to have my wallet, I need to have my phone, and I need to have my keys. The only one I always leave with is the keys. Because the other times my brain doesn't work that way. It's like I just got to make sure that I got the keys, and then if I have the phone, hey, that's lucky. And sometimes if I have my wallet, that's kind of good, too. I hope I don't get pulled over.
I just had a client. It was so funny. I told her I was going to tell this story, but like I said, the names are changed to protect the guilty. And her husband was leaving, and he couldn't find the keys to the car. I mean, he was frantic. He was late. He could not find the keys. So finally, he took her vehicle because he couldn't find his keys. So she went to offer me something to drink, and she opened the refrigerator up, and his keys were in the refrigerator.
Just like right on the main slot, or were they hiding in the egg compartment?
He put them on top of his lunch so that he wouldn't forget his lunch.
And then he forgot everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I have. I have huge memory problems. in general. So I can definitely, I don't leave stuff in the fridge because that's crazy. But I mean, I have forgotten things like that. So for someone who always someone who always forgets their keys, is there a system that you've seen that has worked for most people, even the ones that have the bad memories?
Yes. It's having a place that you call that's the home. For example, the milk always goes in the refrigerator. Would you dream of leaving the milk in the living room? No, because you know that the refrigerator is where you put the milk. So if you pick a spot in your home or office and you say, that's for the keys.
The keys live there.
Keys live there. That's the keys home. Now, obviously, mistakes are going to happen, because one thing I see that people do is they pick up all their mail, and they're coming in the door, and they got all their packages, and so they drop their mail on the kitchen table, wherever they're going to drop it at, and the keys are in that pile. And they leave the mail, and they forget it. So the next morning, they can't find their keys. It's buried under the pile of mail.
Yeah. Okay, now it's starting to make sense. I'm just glad I'm not crazy. It's helpful that I hear these things, and now I've become more accustomed to that.
Exactly.
But okay, so when I think about organization, though, I also have to organize not just my house, because I have a lot of people who run businesses, and they have their biggest organizational problem is where do they keep the files, how can they find the files, and just maybe even organizing files in a computer. So it's not even just physical stuff. Now you're talking about your virtual. We've got people who can't find files on a computer system. So I know that you're starting to do more of that. It's more of a management issue. What's the first thing that a business can do to make sure that they have at least a good system in place as far as organization? Is there certain rules that you see that apply to most people in general, or what's the first thing you do? So if I was going to hire you to come in, what are the first couple questions you're going to ask me?
Okay, well, first thing that I want to know is, I want to know what your position is. I want to know what the position is of every support staff that's working there. Because a lot of times, when you read the book by Michael Gerber, which is the E-Myth, and they talk about the different, you have your administrative, you have your operations, your sales and marketing. And so if you have too many people doing the exact same thing, then you're being counterproductive. So you want to know what everybody's got going on, and then you want to know what's happening with their schedule. The computer is just a whole little part of the whole world, which that's where people just disappear into the abyss, into these computer systems. And there are little techniques on setting up files in your computer system.
Yeah, but I find that you need to, for me, when I ran an office, I had several people. I made sure that the files were organized to fit the person that needed them the most, and then the rest of us were going to have to adapt, especially if we didn't need them that often. Because I found that the president of the company every 6 months needed to find a file and didn't like the way the system was because he couldn't find it, yet the 30 to 50 people that used them every day could find them like that, because he goes, well, these aren't really organized. No, if a stranger can't walk in here and find them, then they're not organized. And I'm just like, well, that's not necessarily true. It's not organized to your strengths. So do you find that that he was valid in that complaint, or do you think that
he is valid? But that's where it's important to have like tickler files, because that tickler file is going to be that cross-reference. That's going to be that if somebody is looking for something, and I have had some people who, if they're going to be filing all these credit card statements, they're going to go for Chase, they're going to go for Capital One, they're going to go for every single name, Bank of America. So that way you're looking up B for Bank of America, C for Capital One. I'm like, put in the credit card.
But then wouldn't that file be so massive that'd be...
Well, that's where you can even have subcategories.
Oh, well, look at you.
But here again, you don't need to keep everything paper any longer. There's a lot of things you don't need to keep.
Right. You can ask for electronic statements, which are PDFs, I think. I think they email you. I mean, I know my bank, on my business account, they email me PDFs every month.
Well, and there's a lot of things that now, whether it's in your Outlook management for your emails, you can make folders and stuff, subfolders. And so the person who is managing it does have to make sense. I have seen situations where I walk in there, I'm thinking, what were they thinking of when they set up these files? There was like no rhyme or reason to it. And so there's got to be that's a whole nother story all by itself. But there are ways that you can set up files simplistically, whether it's paper or whether it's virtual, so that somebody should be able to just step right in there and handle it. And
then before I interrupted you with other things, you were talking more about streamlining, making sure for overlap. See spot where overlap is? Is that where you're asking where everyone's position is and what they do is to see who's...
Well, let me give you an example of a bank. Okay, they're wanting to follow up on customers. They're wanting to make sure that they're following up on their referral sources. They're wanting to get their leads, and they just want to take care of that. But then you have all these customers that are walking in and out sporadically needing help with their little issues. So it's like, well, wait a minute. Why don't you guys take turns? Okay? Why don't you say that Monday so-and-so is going to be taking care of all the customers that run through. Tuesday will be this person's turn. So that way you're not putting out fires all day. You're having that half day, that whole day where you're working on gaining your customers, maintaining your customer relationships versus the everyday events that go on in a bank. And that's just one example.
Right. Well, you don't want to. Also, that's more stress related too, because you're going to improve their quality of life at work if they're not always putting out fires.
Exactly.
Now, when you're talking about a group of people, you've got several people who have different things going on, but yet they kind of share the same environment. How can you set it up so at least you go by the least common denominator, what's going to cause the least amount of trouble? Or are you going to do what actually works and have people adapt to it?
It's going to go back to every place is so different. It's whether it's a home or an office. There's general rules that you're looking at, and what you're looking at is what is going on in the whole day. What do you want to accomplish in the day? And then it's breaking down and it's creating the schedule, and that flows into the time management portion of it.
Okay. So, and then with time management, I noticed that I have a tendency of I can't even speak. Yeah, see, I'm having the same problem. I think it's the heat in here.
Compartmentalize.
Thank you. I know the mental part, and I'm having that. I can divide things up. Look at that. I can find a thesaurus. I can divide things up into chunks. I mean, for me, I separate by a whole day.
Right.
Like on certain days I market, on certain days I do this. But you can't really do that in some work environments because I know I have the luxury of I run my business, so I can do what I want that day. Now, if someone calls, obviously for that phone call, life shifts. But for a department or is it good to divide things up in chunks as you go through the day, or is it? Do you have to?
People are going to touch that computer every day. I mean, you can't just get away from that. But it's being able to say, I'm going to check my emails first thing in the morning, in the afternoon or something like that. Because sometimes you're looking at that and you're watching the urgency of things that are running in. Well, if you sit there and stare at the computer all day, you're going to be chasing emails all day long, and then you've got nothing accomplished. The phone's ringing, customers are coming in, same type of situation. So then you're saying, like for me, I have to purposely say, okay, this is when I'm going to get on the computer, and that's it, honey. But now some days will be administrative days. Some days will be out there meeting people, working with clients. So I have to put that down. I have to write it down. It's on my calendar.
And so you're big on writing things down, making lists.
Oh, yes, big time.
What's a typical list look like for you?
I heard somebody say one time, it's all in my head. Oh, you don't have to worry about it. I got it. It's in my head.
No, I can't remember where I parked my car at the mall. You want everything in my head. No, that's crazy. It's the least trustworthy area is your own brain. I mean, you know what you want to do, you just don't know the minutia of it. That's why we have this stuff. So what is it, like I said, a daily list? What did your list look like today? Because you were going to come here, so that was like, clear out your day, get the calendar going, Google. Okay, I got to get the Google Maps going. How do you do it?
All right, good. All right, good. I'll give you some examples. Okay. I have a big teleseminar coming up on organization and time management. So for each client, this is like customizations, but I'm doing something a little new and a little different. So today was mostly spent this morning working on that. It's just having to take care of that. And then I knew I was going to come here. So then you're kind of pacing your time to make sure that I'm ready. I love that you do reverse timelines, which means that if I have to be here for 3 o'clock, and I know that theoretically it's supposed to take 25 minutes to drive here, and I just kind of back my schedule up as far as when do I stop working to get ready to come over here. But then I have days that
But are you writing that down? Are you filling out a grid of like 2 o'clock, 2:30? Are you doing that? Is that how deep it goes with you? Is that how far down the rabbit hole you fall down there, Alice?
Actually, I did that a long time ago. I don't have to do it anymore. Now it's just in my head.
Okay. Oh, okay.
No, right. I do have things written down. I do have them sometimes make sure. On my calendar, I'm not going to say all that kind of stuff, but sometimes in the morning, if I'm looking at when I'm getting ready to leave the house, I'm going to write a couple of things down, things that I need to take care of. I keep master lists. There's a master list of all that day-to-day stuff that has to be taken care of. And then there's the big projects you want to do, and you're looking at the project going, okay, what's going on first, second, or third? Because you have the weekly where I'm going to go in there with clients and I'm going to be working with people one-on-one, but then there's those fun other things you want to do, those goals, those dreams that you want to accomplish. And then there's the networking and marketing with people, having coffee with people, visiting.
And how do you schedule a lot of that? Because, I mean, for me, I did a lot of that early until I found out that I'm really just wasting my time with a lot of real estate agents and financial planners who you meet at these networking things. Because I always think of networking as like cutting yourself with paper cuts and then jumping into a Shark Tank. It's like that's the worst thing I could possibly think about is networking. But it needs to be done. Everyone has to do some sort of networking. There's social networking.
Exactly.
But like I said, when you're writing that list down, do you go by 30-minute increments? Or you just do by what's the most important?
I may try to once or twice a week visit with somebody. And I'm always making sure. Now, I tell you what, emails have been wonderful. Send out cards are wonderful. Facebook has really been good. But there's those moments where it's like, you know what, I want to stop and sit down and visit with somebody. So once or twice a week, and it doesn't always happen. This is not the networking. This is just that relationship building. It's like, you know what?
Just getting out of the house kind of situation.
And you're going to sit there because I find that when I take the time to go visit, people have something to offer that's like, this is really cool. I'm glad I sat with them and visit. And then you got this relationship thing happening. And I know sometimes maybe for, men, I've heard, that whether they go on hunting or golfing, they say that most businesses get a lot accomplished on golf course. And it's not that they're talking, there's this thing happening.
It's building trust. They're getting comfortable with the person. They know that if they cheat at golf, they're going to cheat at business.
Yes.
So it's one of those kind of situations. It's beneficial, especially down here in Texas, where people golf a lot.
Right, and it is important to at least, I think, once or twice a month to go to some type of community networking event, whether it's a chamber or a group that you're going to or a volunteer thing. Like I just got back from D.C. last week. Woo, love going to D.C. and doing all that kind of stuff.
Well, this time of year is beautiful up in D.C.
Exactly.
My mother-in-law lived in Virginia, right near D.C., so it's great to go. Well, we've only got like a few minutes left, and I wanted to make sure that, we got the teleseminar coming up. When is that exactly?
Well, keep in touch with my website, and all the details will show up there. My website is www.atimeandplace4.com.
And that's the number 4.
Yeah. Correct. And so I'll be having more details on there. And, of course, everybody needs to get a copy of my book.
Well, you can get that when you get to the website. But the teleseminar, what is that going to be focusing on?
The first teleseminar, the one that I'm going to be doing coming up Monday night, it's for its particular group.
Since this will be delayed, I think we're going to miss that particular one.
Exactly. And so what I'll do is I'm going to start, there's one that's just kind of an overview. It just kind of gives you some basic information. It kind of promotes you to think. Where are you at organization-wise, time management-wise? And the next ones that kind of come up, it gets a little deeper. So for some people, somebody who says, I do want to know more stuff about paper, and that way, you get to get on this call, you get to talk to me a little bit, you get to hear more details about organizing paper or just some basic tips on organizing clutter. And then sometimes we get into those conversations of, well, what's stopping you, what's holding you back?
Well, what does that mean? Give me a hint. Give it a little taste, because this will be they're going to miss this little part of it. But.
You know what? Some people have guilt. Oh, if I get rid of that, Aunt Rosie's going to be really, really upset with me.
Oh, okay.
Or the fears. Oh, my gosh, what if I get rid of that? I might need it,
Oh, I've had that, and I tell my wife, she's had that issue, and I've had that, but it's more of, have you used it in the last year? Especially if you pull something out of the closet.
But paperwork's a whole different issue, too.
Well, I mean, I've got stuff where I go, do I need this? I mean, it's like I cleaned out a drawer the other day because I ran out of room. And so I pull all the stuff out and I go, do I actually need this? I haven't seen this in a year.
I know, but
it looks important.
I know, but what about when Aunt Rosie brings something and it's really big and really horrible and she's coming to visit you and you already threw it away?
Well, that's why I don't live anywhere near my relatives. My nearest relative is 1,800 miles away.
But you know what? Those are important things to help people to overcome. It's like, you know what? You can't live like that. You can't keep everything.
Okay, good, because my wife just received a bunch of 80s photos, and they're A, they're god awful, but B, they're cutouts as well. I guess back in like 84, 85, people would have. It's actually a cutout. It's the pictures of them on foam core that you would put on like a mantle. Now that was in the 80s, but her mother sent them all to her, and now we're trying to figure out what to do with them. And they're in storage right now, and they'll probably stay in storage even if her mother shows up. But that would be something where there's guilt involved because she goes, I am glad she sent it, I guess, but I don't really know what to do with it. So
I know exactly what to do with those things.
And what do? You toss them?
It's that special black filing bag that goes out to the sidewalk twice a week.
Wow. So you just toss it?
I do toss stuff.
Okay. No, that's fine. So you just have to, suck it up and do it.
Exactly.
So and then you just got to make sure that when she shows up and asks about it, what do you say?
I'm not sure where it's at right now.
Oh, okay. Okay, now we start scrambling. So you really haven't gotten past the whole guilt part either. You're still making up stories, but that's good. At least you're getting rid of it. You say, I don't know where I put that, which is true because you put it in the garbage. You don't know where it went.
Exactly. You don't know where
you're just extrapolating out.
Well, it's kind of like there's those little lie type issues that people talk about. It's like, how do I look?
Well, that's why I call this reality check. It's so this is the reality of it. You don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
Exactly.
But you can't have all their crap in your house.
Exactly.
So, that's all right.
Exactly. People know. When I received the birthday card, and my rule is on cards, it has to make me laugh out loud, really touching, or have something written. Well, honey, if it's just a generic happy birthday card, it hits the trash. And my husband said,
we got to shake it first. Make sure this money doesn't fall out of it.
That's true. My husband goes, could you not have kept it 24 hours maybe? So he just wants me to kind of take it and just sit it on the counter and look at it. Ooh, okay, all right, it's over. Birthday's done. Midnight.
You don't collect them for like a couple days, and then just throw them all out at once. That's what my wife does. She uses this little bench here where the bird cage is on. Again, great for radio. But she'll throughout the week because you don't get all the birthday cards at once.
Exactly.
She'll put them out, and then she knows about 2-3 days after her birthday or after an anniversary toss them. And your husband is the one that's you can't no compromises.
Well, we have demilitarized zone. That's a whole other story by itself because he's a hesitant to be a pack rat.
Oh, okay.
I love to get rid of everything.
So opposites do attract.
They do. But you have to have rules of living together, and we have demilitarized zones.
And so you made that rule, and he has to live with it now.
Well, because what I said, look, if I have the kitchen and the living room and where people see, then you can have the master bedroom and garage, and I promise I'll leave you alone.
So as long as you're like the hunchback at Notre Dame, as long as you're hidden up in the belfry where no one can see you, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
That seems like it works out great.
It does. It really does. It's got to be compromised.
There you go.
So, whether you're married or you have a roommate, you have to, because if you have a neatnik and you allow somebody to come live with you who's not, it could be really problems. So you have to kind of compromise.
Well, it can be the other way around, too. If you're not a neatnik and then you all of a sudden have the anal person walking around going, pick that up, why is this out, pick this up, there will be murder-suicide. I'm pretty sure that's how most of them end up. So.
No, it's like, where's my glass? I was still drinking that.
Yeah, they do, because they don't want, or they constantly throwing, I had a roommate that would throw coasters. And but it was on a glass table. I go, a glass table, yeah, it will leave a ring, but guess what? A wet paper towel, but it's gone. But he's flinging them like frisbees at you. So yeah, you do have to kind of make sure that the organizational thought that one person has kind of matches, or at least compromise.
I guess the biggest takeaway will be is putting things away and periodically purging.
So basically, it's the life of an anorexic. Great. All right. Every once in a while you pack stuff away, but you definitely got to learn to throw stuff out.
Exactly.
Well, I'm definitely not going to. I'm going to actually throw you and your lovely son out right now, who's here as your bodyguard. But I certainly appreciate your time. Again, we can find you at
www.atimeandplace4.com, and that's the number 4.
All right, and then you put that in your bookmarks, and it'll be organized for life. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. This was fun.
I want to thank Lisa for joining us. Remember, you can find her at www.atimeandplace4.com. And if you want to stay organized when it comes to the podcast, you can always go to realitycheckpodcast.com, click on the RSS feed. It'll go to your Google Reader, your Outlook, whatever you use, your Nook, your Kindle, all kinds of stuff. Or you can go to iTunes where you can subscribe, and it'll automatically come to you every Tuesday. See you next week.